Darren, thanks for being with us once again.
Hi, Craig. Love to be here.
Aptorum Group is a clinical stage biopharma targeting unmet needs in oncology, autoimmune, and infectious diseases. Darren, let's start with a brief overview of your pipeline.
Oh, sure. So we have in our first generation leading pipeline with 4 assets split between 2 drug and 2 non-drug products. First, we have the ALS4, a small molecule drug, which is targeted for the treatment of Staphylococcus aureus, including the subtype MRSA. It's a first-in-class small molecule drug we've been developing since the discovery stage. As we have announced last year, we've completed our phase 1 clinical trials, and we're now interacting with the FDA ready to start our what we call a phase 2 clinical trials in the United States, targeting MRSA bacteremia, which is a blood infection, as well as MRSA skin and wound infection, which is also a highly prevalent superbug infection of the skin. And then we also have our second drug product, which is SACT1. It's a repurposed small molecule drug targeting a very hard to treat oncology disease called Neuroblastoma, which is a pediatric focused cancer disease. We have completed our phase 1 clinical trials earlier in the year. And this year, we were also granted the FDA orphan drug designation on this product as well. In terms of our 2 non-drug products, we have our RPIDD liquid biopsy-based rapid pathogen diagnostics. It's basically using metagenomic approach to diagnose basically infection in the blood. This particular molecular diagnostics has been in clinical validation. We recently announced some excellent results in our news release on our quarterly news release that we are conducting in Singapore at the National University Hospital. We're currently now gearing up for further validation over the remainder of 2023 to allow us to prepare for the commercialization in the United States of this very exciting metagenomic-based diagnostics. And lastly, in terms of our last leading non-drug product, our Nativa as well, women's health dietary supplement. It currently has been commercialized just a few weeks ago in Asia. We are now working very hard in making it possible to be commercialized in the US and European Union, which are obviously much bigger markets as well. So we're very excited by our 4 leading assets in our current pipeline.
Sounds very exciting, Darren. I want to turn to that CLIA Certified Lab in California that you recently announced plans to open. Tell us where you are exactly in the process right now, and what will this lab mean for Aptorum in the future?
So, as you may well know, on our rapid molecular diagnostics, we're very excited to roll out this very novel metagenomic-based liquid biopsy diagnostics targeting the US market. We believe that there's a huge demand in having a very sophisticated, very deep tech metagenomic approach towards infectious disease diagnostics using the genome data of the patient's blood sample. To this extent, we would require a CLIA certified laboratory to allow us to start working on further collaboration as well as commercialization of the technology in the United States. We have engaged the relevant consultants to allow us to start the setting up of the CLIA certified laboratory, which we're targeting in San Diego, in California. And with this will obviously entail a regulatory approval for the CLIA certification in the California state. We hope to be able to complete the setup over the course of 2023 to allow us to work with regional hospitals, regional academic institutions for the eventual rollout of our rapid technology on the west coast of the United States, close to the metagenomic hub with the big players such as Illumina and so forth. Those very big sequencing companies were operated out of there in San Diego as well.
Darren, I want to turn to the menopausal health product that you mentioned a few moments ago, the Nativa Well, which has already begun commercialization in Hong Kong, and as you just said, you're hoping for sales in the much larger markets of the European Union and the United States. Let's talk a little more about this. I want to know more about how big the market opportunity would be if you were in Europe and the United States.
Absolutely. As you may be well aware, the menopausal market is an extremely significant market that affects basically women as they approach, the age group between 45 to 65 years old. It was estimated globally the market size for women's health product targeting menopause in the nutraceutical space is actually reaching even closer to $15 billion a year, $15 billion. The reason for that is because obviously women at that age group are constantly looking at alternative non-hormonal based nutraceutical to help them supplement their lifestyle, as a lot of side effects derived during the courses of the menopause age, including lifestyle problems as well as diseases such as bone density loss, which is called osteoporosis. So on this basis, current product available in the market in the US and Europe are largely what we call phytoestrogen-based, which is a plant-based estrogen supplement, which are very questionable effect. It's been around in the market for a very long time. However, due to the ability not able to absorb this type of molecule very well through the stomach barrier, we're currently looking at basically have a product that is deviated away from the commonly available phytoestrogen product in the market. Our product is actually based on a completely different mechanism. It's a new novel ingredient that we derive from a plant that's called cinnamon vine, which has been ingested a majority in Asia for decades. It's an extremely safe product. And what we're able to find is they're able to combine our Western clinical approach in basically analyzing the relevant molecules of that particular plant. That actually seems to have a direct impact on reactivating the production of estrogen inside women's health. And by reactivating estrogen production naturally, we believe it's a much more superior product compared to phytoestrogen supplements out there. It's a far more natural product. It's basically looking at stimulating your own body in producing estrogen rather than supplementing something that looks like estrogen, but it isn't. And we believe that this is the kind of product that consumers are really looking for around the world, not just the US and Europe, but pretty much around the world. So we believe the market opportunity is significant. As I said, we're estimating at least a $15 billion market overall for the menopause. And even capturing a small fraction of that is a significant revenue driver for our company.
Darren, this year, Aptorum has completed phase 1 trials both in its ALS4, which is targeting MRSA, and SACT1, which is targeting neuroblastoma. What milestones should investors expect moving forward from these programs?
Yes, we are very excited about our two leading drug products. As you rightly said, Craig, we have completed the phase 1 clinical trials for both drugs early in the year. We saw some excellent phase 1 data, all of which have been announced to the market, both of which are extremely safe products consumed. It was formulated as an oral drug for consumption. So on this basis, we're now working very hard, interacting with the FDA right now to get ready for what we call a phase 2 human clinical trial. So this will be in human patients for MRSA, to start in early part of 2023 for ALS4, as well as what we call a phase 1b/2a clinical trial for actual pediatric neuroblastoma patients for our SACT1, also hoping to start in the Q1 of 2023 as well. So those are the two key clinical stage milestones we would expect. So phase 2 for ALS4, phase 1b/2a for SACT1. Obviously, with the key endpoints there, observing initial efficacy deriving from the drug, observing things like what the optimization dose of the drugs that we will see the best effect in the patients. And obviously, we're very excited by that, and we hope to be able to report back to the investors over the course of 2023 the efficacy data, initial efficacy readout of these two drugs in human patients.
Darren, management, of course, is key to the success of smaller cap companies. Introduce yourself to us, please, as well as some of the other key players on the Aptorum team.
Absolutely. So as you rightly said, we are just in the steps of approaching various major clinical trials milestone. To that, we are very grateful to have our Chief Medical Officer on our management team, Dr. Clark Chen. Clark Chen has had more than 20 years of hospital and clinical experience. He completed his MD training in London in the UCL, and subsequent that he also did his specialist training for spending most of his career at a major hospital group called the Raffles Medical Group as well. So it brings with him a huge amount of experience in patient recruitment, in conducting clinical trials, and the network and connections within the medical community for our clinical trials. And on top of that, we have Dr. Thomas Lee. So Dr. Thomas Lee is the head of R&D. Thomas has been instrumental to the development of all our products from preclinical to clinical stage. Before he joined Aptorum, Thomas worked at Celgene and Novartis on more than 25 assets during his time there. And his last position, he was on the candidate selection committee of Celgene, responsible for selecting Celgene's preclinical drugs and bringing them into the clinical stage. As I said, his experience comprised more than 8 products that has been since reached the market. And as a result of that, he brings with a significant experience and network in the US in allowing our clinical trials to happen and liaising with the relevant CROs. We use major CROs for our clinical trials to allow us to expedite the patient recruitment and having very strong defined clinical endpoints for our clinical trials as well.
To wrap up, Darren, what is the essential value proposition? Why should investors take an interest in Aptorum Group right now?
Yeah, so we are very excited. I think we believe Aptorum Group has a lot to offer, especially 2023 will be a very exciting year comprised of the beginning of a phase 2 clinical trials for our ALS4 drug targeting MRSA, as well as our phase 1b/2a clinical trial for our SACT1 targeting neuroblastoma patients, as well as our liquid biopsy technology rolling out in the United States. As I said, we're hoping to get the setup of the CLIA laboratory on the West Coast to allow us to start expanding the application of this technology in the liquid biopsy base, in the metagenomic-based space in the US, starting from the West Coast. And lastly, our Nativus Well, a women's health supplement. Again, we're working very hard to get that commercialized in the United States and the European Union, subject to labeling review. And we believe we are well on track to start and complete that process, allowing us to start the commercialization of Nativus Well in the US in around Q1 of 2023.
It's a fascinating and very compelling story, Darren. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Craig.